Hello and welcome to Conquering Mount Scrapmore with Brenda. I'm Brenda and we're here today with another episode of the Orphan Block Challenge, right? Because this looks like it's growing, but it's not, I promise you. There's some stuff that is still there that we've finished, but we put it in there because you need to see it. So we are going to do Scrappy Bordered bars today for our pattern of what I sit and I make while I'm, working on my blocks or my that become orphan blocks, and now we've turned them into quilts. But first, we want to talk to you about Susan at StitchedBySusan. Her YouTube channel is going to be in the show notes below, and when you go check her out, tell her that Brenda from Conquering Mount Scrapmore sent you. The other thing that's in those show notes below is our Facebook group where we're sharing, making use of the rooms, having a lot of fun over there. And it's growing very rapidly, but it's a very friendly, outgoing group. The other thing that's in that show notes below is our Zoom link. Our Zoom link is our monthly sew date, and those dates go from the next one that's coming up to the end of the year. So it's the first Saturday of the month unless it's a stat holiday or something I've already pre-planned and I can't move it. So when you get the chance, go check that out, and then we'll get to the sewing. So come on in. We've got lots of sewing to do here today. Okay, here we are at the sewing machine. Now, my 6.5 inch square here is in the middle, and these are 2 by 6.5, all of these, and these are all 2 inches. Now, depending on what size your scrappy string block is, right? I mean, you can turn around, and if it's a rectangle that you've made or whatever, then you would just make these, if it's a rectangle where this is stretched, you would make these longer and these the right length, right? And then you would put your corners in. Now, if you wanted to use up your 2.5 inch strips, right, these would be 2.5 inches, and then this would be the height of your block, and this would be the width of your string block, right? So I'm just doing this. Now, this is a cute way of putting string blocks together, and I came up with a surprise when I did the sashing, and I'll show you those later at the end, but let's get this sewing, because this comes together so quick. Now, I web. I am a firm believer in webbing, and when you're doing these, you might want to, here I'll show you. When you're doing these, I want you to think about webbing, because once you web a block and you get the knack of webbing your block, webbing a quilt top is not a problem, and we're going to show you webbing a quilt top in an upcoming video. So what I do is I start at the upper left hand corner, and I just flip it so that I've got it in the right spot, and I just go through the block just like this, and we line it up. We take our time to line it up, and okay, make sure it lines up good. Yes, it does. Perfect. So yeah, we've made quite a few quilt tops now from this challenge, and it is such a wonderful sight to behold here. And all we've done now is work with the strings. We've gotten all pretty much, except one more thing with the strings, and then we're done. So I'm going to take this, it's a miniature four patch. That's my leader ender, because I always sew with a leader ender. So I'm just going to quickly put a leader ender in under the machine, because that's the easiest way to not waste thread. I can make another block by the time, I pull this out and clip it. I've managed to make yet another little block. And these are going to be fun little leader ender projects when I'm done. And they'll also go into a charity quilt. Now, what I do, and I'm going to show you this, is just lay it back out so you see where you're at. Now you see where you're at. Well, this goes this way. But, so you see where you're at now, right? So now you're going to pick up this side, because basically this is an uneven 9 patch. And you're going to work from the top right down to the bottom right. And everything goes like this. And right through. When you're doing this, let's say as a quilt top, right? because I'm putting low volumes in, it gives your eye a place to rest. But when you're doing this at quilt top, you would have it stacked up as high as you need to be. This, by the way, ends up being 8.5 inch block. And we'll get this leader ender off, and we'll put another leader ender through to get the block off. These are such cute little blue. I have, everybody's going, what's with the blue squares? Well, everything is like little blue squares. Well, I'm overrun with blue scrap, so that's why the blue scrap bin is in the Orphan block pile, and I'm down to one blue scrap bin. So this is what your block looks like now, right, when you're webbing it, and it all comes together off in one piece. So now you can either start at the bottom or the top. It's up to you. I would go this way. And now I'm just going to run this through. And it's going to naturally fall one way or the other. Now, I just clip so I can see where I need to nest. I just clip that little string. Now, I've got all the seams on the bottom. So I'm going to make sure my seams don't flip. And I'll do the other one the other way so you can see the seams. Okay, and I'm going to clip this so I can see where this and this have to nest. So I can see it, I can feel it. It's going to look beautiful. When it's done, I got a good nest. And run another leader ender through. That's probably why I have so many little Orphan blocks. I've got all these little leader enders. But you know, once you train yourself to do this, you can make another quilt while you're working on one quilt. And the only thing you've got to worry about is cutting the next bit, right? Like all you have to do is worry about how much you have to cut and how much you have to do. And that's it. Now, on this side, oops, I get rid of this. On this side, I'm going to, like, normally I would just sew it like this, but I'm going to show you to make sure that you understand, don't flip your seams. So I'm going to do it the opposite way so you can see. Now, if you have a lot of seams that might be not, and you don't want them flipping, it might not be a bad idea to sew it counterintuitively with not the big piece on the bottom. You could also sew them so that the larger piece is on the bottom. Sometimes you have to ease in a block, and I'm just going to cut that like this and go like this, line it up, make sure I've got a good nest. Now all I have to do is worry about not flipping my seam, and everything will lie nice and flat on this block, because that's what you want. You want a nice flat block to work with. Okay, now make sure that's all perfect. Ooh, yes. There we go. And we'll run through another leader ender. Yeah, I always have a leader ender now beside me because it's one of those things. I can get through a lot of fabric and make a lot of little blocks, and you keep those blocks really simple. Like, you don't get crazy complicated blocks as a leader ender, or you do you know, something that you can pile up on the right side of you so it's not in your way for what you're really sewing. Okay, so now we're going to get to that ta-da moment, and I'm going to show you what all this looks like and how I put it into a quilt top. Okay, so this is the cute little block we made, and you know, you can put this on point. It's a lot of fun. Your string quilt, your string block doesn't need to go up and down. It can go at an angle. It can do whatever you want to do. You do you. You can do crumb blocks if you want. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good way to use up crumb and string blocks, right? So now I promised to show you how many of these I made, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 quilts. Yeah, I know it's there's a lot of stuff here. So I'm just going to open this up. Now I'll show you the top one. Now I put in different sashing just to make it bigger. And I'm just going to put this down like so, just to make it bigger. And I use just only my red and pink blocks. And with the bordered bars with a blue cornerstone and sashing, you end up with a little 9 patch now. So it's a cute way to put together blocks. Now this is a crib size, so it's 4 by 5, right? The other ones are a little bit bigger, and I'll just open one of these up. And it's all the colors of the rainbow, because that's best, you know, have all of the colors there, play. So that's what, oops, that's what this looks like when it's all together. Now I have picked some pretty wild, low volume fabrics, right? Like this one here and this one here. These are pretty wild and not normally chosen for low volume, but they work, right? When your eye is when you're looking far back at this, you don't see that this is like outrageous low volumes. You see lower volumed fabric against brightly colored fabric. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind too. So I hope you try this. This has been a lot of fun. And there's a lot of quilt tops coming up, and we're proud to give them to charities for people who are in need right now in our province. So I'm very, very happy that we're getting through our Orphan Block Challenge. Now, like I say, there's 5 of these quilts, and one of them is a baby quilt. The rest are all twins. So we're going to be taking pictures of them later this afternoon, and then hopefully the community service lady will come next week to pick them up. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Share, like, and subscribe, because that would really help us out. And if you're not sure what to say, put a little heart in if you like the video. That also helps boost our ratings and, you know, how well we're put forward in Facebook or YouTube. So you take care until then, and I hope you have a very blissful and happy week ahead. Okay, bye! My husband and I would love to thank you for all of the amazing people that we have met along this crazy YouTube adventure that we've been having. We do free speaking engagements too, so if you're part of a guild and they're looking for, you know, people to talk and, you know, and chat with, you know, in their monthly meetings, tell them that I'm doing free ones just to help the guilds out, because it's been a tough time for the guilds as well. You know, share, like, and subscribe with your friends. You know, make sure that they're, you know, they get the word out on us. That's the best way you can do to help us out. So until we meet again, I want to thank you. Okay, goodbye.